Hey there, I'm Carrie, social worker and founder of playmotionkids. Welcome to Wait, Am I Saving the World? This podcast is for people shaping childhood at home, in classrooms, and beyond. Around here, we're having real conversations about what it takes to raise the next generation of change makers. We talk child welfare, child development, parenting, education, and everything it takes to show up for kids without losing yourself or your sanity in the process. I'm so glad you're here. Hey friends, it's Carrie. Welcome back to Wait, Am I Saving the World? Quick heads up before we jump in. The full season 2 launch will happen on January 1st, but I will be dropping little mini solo episodes here and there until then, just for fun and also because I'm impatient and don't want to wait. So I am sitting in bed in my pajamas with my very professional setup, microphone in my lap. Here we go. I want to talk to you about something that has been on my mind a lot lately, and that is childhood. And not in a dramatic, like, let's go fix the world kind of way, even though it is in the title of the podcast, but really more just why it matters, why I care about it, why I think more of us should be talking about it. When you work with kids, or really even if you don't, you start to realize pretty quickly that so much of who we are as adults starts way earlier than we think. How we handle stress, how we communicate, how we react when things get overwhelming, it all has a foundation in those early years and really in utero. I mean, we're talking about from the very, very beginning. And I am not saying this in a blame your parents way or don't take responsibility for your actions way. It's just reality, it's science. Childhood is where we learn how to be humans. We learn the foundation of everything that we will grow and do. How to feel safe, how to calm ourselves, how to connect with people, how to handle our emotions, our habits. We carry all of that into adulthood, whether we realize it or not. And I think the reason I want to bring more of these conversations here is because honestly, most of us didn't get this information growing up. No one sat down and explained to us how a kid's brain works or told us why certain things feel harder than it should. No one said, hey, your nervous system is doing this X, Y, and Z thing right now. So we're learning it as adults, but we're learning it while we're also raising kids, teaching kids, trying to support kids in one form or another. And honestly, that's a lot. So I feel like by talking about childhood in a simple way, it makes everything just a little less confusing. It gives us language, it gives us grace, it makes it easier to understand ourselves and have a little bit more compassion for the people around us. You don't have to be a parent or a teacher for this to matter. We all know adults who just shut down when things get tense or overwhelming or there's conflict, or we all have that coworker or family member who just takes everything personally, or somebody who panics if the schedule changes or deviates just a little bit, or people who overfunction because they're just trying to feel safe or feel loved. And again, none of that starts in your 30s or 40s or 50s. There's usually a story underneath it. And understanding it doesn't excuse it, but it does help us show up with others for more compassion and hopefully help us learn our own patterns and behaviors so we can start working through and changing things that might make us feel a little better. And I think our world could use a little more of that. For me, this feels like a really important place to put my energy, and not because I'm an expert by any means, but because I'm in it every day with my own kids, with the kids I teach, with the families I work with in child welfare, with the educators and directors I talk to all the time. And the common thread is this: people care deeply about kids, but they're also trying to care for them while caring for themselves, not losing themselves in the process, and still figuring out stuff, right? So they're trying to support these little humans, and we're still trying to work through everything that has happened to us up until this point. So, if this podcast can be a place where we talk about that honestly, without judgment, without perfection, without the Pinterest perfect feed, then that feels like something worth doing and spending my time on. So, here's a little something to think about today. What is one thing from your own childhood that still shows up in your adult life, in good or interesting or annoying ways? Just notice it. You don't have to fix it, but I'm curious if you can identify one thing. For me, I can identify at least a couple that I know that I live with daily. And one of the things is a lesson that I learned from my father. One of them is a lesson that I learned from my mother, and it's not something that was ever spoken. It wasn't anything that they tried to teach me. And that's the thing, right? A lot of times as kids, we and current kids learn by watching and modeling, not by the verbal lessons that we're trying to teach them. And I say good or interesting or annoying because it doesn't have to be something bad, right? It can be something fun. It could be a good trait that we learned or something amazing, a skill or trait that we've carried into our adulthood that helps us. But it does also often show up in traumatic ways, or we carry those negative things with us. I sat with a woman a couple of weeks ago who made a lot of bad choices when she was a young adult. And she explained to me that she knew it was because of what she watched growing up. But the interesting part was she had lost her father, her other family was on drugs, and her takeaway from that was not necessarily that it was modeled in front of her or that she had watched it done. She believes that she did not make good choices as an adult because she didn't feel loved when she was a child. Those actions that her family was taking made her feel like she wasn't worthy of them doing better. And she carried that into her adulthood and then turned around to make some of her own bad choices. But with therapy and a lot of her own work, she has realized that that's exactly why she was doing it. It wasn't something that she wanted for herself. And she stopped blaming herself, started feeling loved, started feeling worthy, and now gets to raise her daughter in a completely different environment and give her daughter a completely different childhood than she had for herself. I know that's a very extreme end of the spectrum, and it doesn't all have to be that deep or dramatic or traumatic, but just take some time to think about if, even in a good or interesting way, something, a lesson that you learned in your childhood that you have carried into your adult decision making or experiences. Anyways, thank you so much for being here. Can't wait to talk to you again. Have a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me on Wait, Am I Saving the World? If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share it with a friend and follow the show so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and don't forget to make a little time to play. Thank you so much for being here.